I believe her. To be prepared to testify in the United States Senate against someone who's being nominated to one of the most powerful positions in the United States government, that takes an extraordinary amount of courage.
Not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely comes forward, need to be heard, but they need to be believed. I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing.
I believe Dr. Ford. I believe the survivor here.
I believe her. I stand with her.
I believe Professor Ford. I think she's credible.
We haven't even
had the hearing yet.
Yes, some prominent Democrats talking about the accuser of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. Join us right now. We're happy to have Sarah Sanders, the press secretary to the President of the United States. Good to you're in town for the United Nations.
I know. It's nice to see you guys in real life.
It's great to have you. Yesterday,
no
Kellyanne...
street sweeper behind us either, which is nice.
It's so quiet in here.
No one mowing the lawn.
Kellyanne Conway yesterday said regarding these accusers and the campaign against Judge Kavanaugh, she described it as a vast left-wing conspiracy. Do you think there is one?
I think the process that the Democrats have played has been absolutely appalling and disgusting. Even in the accuser's letter yesterday to Senator Grassley, she said she wanted to do this privately, and she reached out for that purpose. But because the Democrats wanted to play 11th-hour political games, they waited until the last minute. They've made this a huge public circus and, frankly, hurt two different families' lives that they'll never be able to be the same because of the way that they have operated this process. And I think it's disgusting that they've exploited these individuals and their families for their own political purposes.
What was your take on Martha's interview last night, and what went into the decision to do that interview? Because this whole process has been unique. That was a very tough decision, I imagine, from communications.
I think we've been very clear from the beginning. Judge Kavanaugh has wanted to come out and tell his story.
He's been telling you that?
As far as, I mean, he said it in every letter, every exchange, every statement, that he is willing and ready to come and answer questions, hard questions, uncomfortable questions, because he's been very consistent from day one and unequivocal in his denial that anything ever took place. And so I find it to be a good platform that he was able to come out and to share his side of the story, because as far as I can tell and as far as I remember in America, you're still innocent until proven guilty. But the Democrats have been calling him guilty from day one before they ever even talked to him.
Well, we do.
They sat through hours of hearing, never brought it up, never talked to him in private meetings, and waited until the last minute to start throwing out some outrageous allegations that have no corroboration, which is, I find, really terrible.
Yeah, a lot of people find the timing curious. We do want our viewers to be able to hear what Judge Kavanaugh had to say, denying the accusations, talking to Martha McCallum on the story.
In America, we have fairness. We hear from both sides. A fair process, at a minimum, at a bare minimum, requires hearing from both sides before rushing to judgment. People might have had too many beers on occasion, and people generally in high school, I think all of us have probably done things we look back on in high school and regret or cringe a bit, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about an allegation of sexual assault. I've never sexually assaulted anyone. I've always treated women with dignity and respect. Listen to the people who've known me best through my whole life, the women who've known me since high school, the 65 who overnight signed a letter from high school saying I always treated them with dignity and respect.
Washington Post says that the president called Mr. Kavanaugh yesterday to wish him good luck on that. Washington Post also says that the president has been frustrated with the pace at which this has been progressing in the Senate on the Republican side. And he says that Chuck Grassley and Mitch McConnell, according to the Washington Post, have been too accommodating, said the Republicans have been too easily manipulated by the Democrats, and he's sick of Ford's attorneys getting their way and does not believe that the accusations are credible.
Well, you know, I like to not use the Washington Post as my source, but look, the president wants this process to come to a vote because that's what's supposed to happen. In every single one of these instances where someone is nominated, they go before, they have a hearing, and then the senators vote on it. That's what's supposed to happen, and that's what the president expects to happen. He's nominated somebody. Senators had ample time to question him. He's been willing to come back and answer these new allegations that have been brought forward. And he wants a chance to be able to do that so that the Senate can make a decision. I do think it's unfair to continue to drag the process out and continue to put good people through the ringer for the sake of political games that the Democrats want to play.
So I know Washington Post, and I've seen that we get some of the press briefings televised at Fox, so I'm able to watch them. But I know there's some tension in the Washington Post and New York Times. But the New York Times has a story that said that the Deputy Attorney General was considering wearing a wire to tape the president in order to get proof that he could enact the 25th Amendment, essentially tossing the president out of office. Number one, does the president believe the New York Times in this case, or does he believe the Deputy Attorney General's semi-denials? And what will that do for Thursday's meeting?
I think that's the part of the conversation that'll take place on Thursday. I'm not going to get ahead of a conversation that hasn't happened yet. The president and Rod Rosenstein had a beginning of that conversation by phone yesterday, and both agreed that it was best to sit down and have that further and longer and more extended conversation in person.
Sarah,
Thursday.
what was yesterday? The
It was
Deputy
confusing.
Attorney General is going to the White House. John Kelly is there. The president's in New York.
That people that work in the administration do go to the White House pretty frequently. That's not like groundbreaking news. In fact, Rod Rosenstein was there a couple times last week, too. So it shouldn't put everyone into a tailspin when somebody that works for the administration shows up and comes to the building in which they work for. And so I don't think that...
Was it a big non-story for you, or was there some peril in his appearance?
Again, I'm not going to get ahead of a conversation that he and the president are going to have on Thursday.
Right.
Obviously, the president has been disappointed by a number of actions that have taken place at the Department of Justice, and he wants some answers to some of the big questions that he has. Some of them have to do with Rod Rosenstein. Some of them have nothing to do with him. But it is the Department of Justice, and it should work to actually fix and hold up law and order, not complicate or undermine law and order. And the president wants to make sure that's happening.
Following this meeting on Thursday, if Rosenstein decides to resign or is relieved of his duties, what's the president's next move?
I'm not going to get into a hypothetical situation. We'll see how Thursday goes, and you know, I'll let the president make that determination.
One of the president's attorneys, Jay Sekulow, said yesterday that if Rosenstein leaves, essentially the Mueller probe should be put on pause for a little while to go ahead and take a review, step back, and just see where we are in the stage.
I'd probably go a step further. I think the Mueller probe should end because they've spent a year and a half and they found nothing because there is nothing. There was no collusion. I think the American people, frankly, are ready for this to wrap up. We have seen absolutely no shred of evidence that the president or anybody on his team had any wrongdoing in the campaign. And I think it's time to wrap this up and move forward.
I think the whole country would love to see it wrapped up. I honestly do, no matter where you stand and who you voted for. Now, today the president gives his second address to the United Nations. I imagine no Rocket Man references. Because you never know. You never know. But how close is Rocket Man to a summit with the Kim Jong-un again? And number two, how hard will he be on Iran?
Certainly, there has been a tremendous amount of progress in just a short amount of time with North Korea. You referenced the speech last year. Things were very different at this point a year ago with North Korea. Tension was high. But due to the leadership of President Trump, we have seen a complete reversal of that relationship. And the first summit went very well, and the communications over the last couple of months have been very strong and very positive from North Korea. The testing has stopped. There have been a number of things. The remains have come home. Every day, the progress continues to move forward, and we feel good about where that is, and we expect a second meeting to take place soon.
Really? Would it be here or the Galapagos Islands?
The location hasn't been determined yet, but certainly those conversations to set that up are ongoing, and we expect that to take place in pretty short order.
And will the president stick to his America First message today when he addresses General
Certainly,
Assembly?
but I think one of the big points he made, and he made it last year, and he's made it every day since taking office, it's certainly America First, but not America alone. We want to be able to work together, and I think you've seen the president do that a lot. I think yesterday was a tremendous example example of the president's leadership on full display. He said he was going to get better trade deals, and he's done exactly that. Yesterday was a monumental moment to see the two leaders put pen to paper and really change the course of trade agreements and set the standard of what this president is going to demand out of the negotiations between different countries.
Why didn't he meet with Macron yesterday? Was his schedule really too packed?
We did meet with Macron yesterday. They met for, I was going to say, we met with Macron for the better part of an hour.
With Canada.
Yeah, I don't know that that was ever actually supposed to be on the schedule for yesterday. The president had wall-to-wall meetings and went from early yesterday morning until about 9 o'clock last night. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't spend some time
Maybe they'll meet in yoga class tonight.
Over the course of the next 2 days.
By the way,
I wouldn't count on that, but we'll see. Crazier things have certainly happened.
Crazy. By the way, the Ducey cookbook is coming out in a week, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders has donated your recipe, the famous recipe for the bourbon chocolate pecan pie that makes you so happy.
Just to be clear, the bourbon cooks out, so feel free to eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
But wait a second, Steve, are you going to break this in? She does make it. She didn't buy it, right?
Well, that was the suggestion, that it was a fake picture, but she actually buys it. But the crust makes that other stuff. It's pre-made. Anyway.
Who makes the crust anymore anyway? I don't either.
You got to save time somewhere.
You do. All right, Sarah, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.